Disclaimer for Big Brother, this is not my music. I mean, no copyright infringement. Thank you very, and it was only 15 seconds of it anyway, and I believe you can play 30 seconds of a song if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now, kiddies, it is book writing lesson time. Um, I wrote down here characters, the good in you, the bad in you. When you, a lot of, I love my good characters, my sweet, and gentle and kind characters, but I love my evil, bad characters. I like them. They get a lot of craziness out, and like I'll write something like totally psycho, and I'll go, "Ooh, girl, what? Where did that come from?" But it's not hard to put yourself um in a position, certain positions that your characters are in. It's not really hard. Like I think I said before, I write men very well. I write men very well. That's why I think men will like the book, because I think a lot of times men don't like, or even though there are male romance writers, and of course there are, you know, male fans of romance, like there are women. But I think a lot of men don't like romance novels because the hero is always too wonderful. He's, brave and strong and smart and has all these women, and, he never has a bad sex night, and he never, feel is vulnerable, and he ever just wants to cry, and, that kind of thing. And I think my male characters are very, very true to how, real men. And so I think they really will like it. I show them being, good and noble and protective and good providers and that kind of thing and good lovers. But then I also have them kind of uh, show their vulnerable side sometimes. That there's a lot of weight on their shoulders, and they show the stress of it sometimes. And also, like my even my villains have a bit of something to make you sympathize, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And that's how I got the idea actually for my second book. Was a writing experiment I had when I was writing the first actual writing class I went to after I moved out here was one at we have a technical college out here called Clover Park, and what it had was a senior writing class. And after the seniors took the writing class, um, if there was any room left, other people could take the class. And I learned a lot, from listening to the people who were in my class. They were older than me at the time. This was almost 20 years ago. So I was like, I thought, like, I really learned a lot about writing style and stuff. And like, I also learned a lot about reading out loud. I had never read for critique uh, out loud to other people who are writers. And that was very scary, but it was something I needed to do. And one of our exercises was to make a bad character sympathetic. And I won't go into it, but that's where I got the inspiration for the hero, quote unquote, in my second novel, Terrible Man. But you will kind of feel for him in the end. I think you really will. So, about the first book, about Autumn, it takes place, like I said, well, it begins in Georgia. The heroine, uh, like I said before, was her. Well, actually, here's the background. Her mother had saved the life, had actually delivered one of the master's kids, and actually it saved the mistress's life because she was, like a herbal woman, like a wise woman, witch woman. And what happened, and so she had a prized place inside the plantation house, was raised there. Therefore, her daughter, when her daughter was born, the woman died in childbirth, and so that's how my heroine got to be raised in the big house, in the, around the master and his children and stuff, and she was brought up with them. because her mother had done this service to, the master and the mistress. And by my character's mother dying in childbirth, my character and the mistress of the plantation's daughter were born about the same time, so they basically had the same wet nurse. So, you know, that's why she was like a chosen member of the club. Uh, the club. I guess that is a kind of good word, huh? So, what ends up happening, like I said, she grows up, and her and the master's son, they become lovers, and there's a lot of really intricacies about them growing up, him going away to school. Like their lives are parallel, but their lives also like take a different, road, because of course she stays on the plantation. He goes away to school, he comes back, and they're still in love and stuff like that. So what ends up happening, which happened a lot in that day, not that people didn't marry for love, but a lot of times it was convenient or arranged, or your cousin, or crazy stuff like that. And what ends up happening is um, my heroine's lover, the master's son, I'm not trying to call their names now, so it might be confusion, but you'll get it later, marries another woman, and doesn't marry the slave girl that he's had as his lover all this time. And to get the neighboring plantation, that's why he did it. And he thought that, okay, well, okay, yeah, I'm marrying her to get her dad's plantation. I don't care anything about her. So he thinks him and his black mistress should still just carry on. And she was like, I don't think so. And he he goes away on his honeymoon, with the white woman that he married. And so she marries another man, just another slave, just to make him angry when he comes back. And he gets back and doesn't care, that she's married to somebody else, and he's married to anybody else. He's really a spoiled rich boy, like I said before. But and then that's how it all leads up to the fire, because he comes back from his honeymoon. The planter's son comes back from his honeymoon, and him and the his black mistress decide they're gonna get back together and all this stuff like that. And so what ends up happening is she goes down to her house where her you know slave husband is at. And since slaves could not enter into a contract, so they couldn't really marry. And that's why at black weddings you see the couple put down a broomstick and they jump over it, because that's how slaves got married in those days, because they couldn't enter into a contract, so they couldn't marry like like people marry, and it was a legal marriage, so that was it. So she gets into a fight with her husband, quote unquote, and they a fire breaks out. So then some other things happen. So because of the fire, because of other incidences, things that end up happening, she is offered her freedom to go west to be like a mail order bride. And that's when the romance between her and actually my hero began. And that's how she ends up there. I told you a little bit about my heroine. I told you about my hero. The town where they, like I told you, I don't remember the land that they live on. I can't remember if I told you guys or not. The land that the where the story, the farm where my hero and my heroine have their start their family, do all that stuff. They live happily ever after. Ends up being a holy place for the a native tribe, which they called them Indians back then. And of course, he doesn't know this when he buys the parcel of land, because of course the land agent doesn't care. And it's funny about that too. The land agent's name is Mr. Tyler, because Aerosmith song was on when I was writing that part. So they kind of see how writers think. Anyway, this valley with the hills in the back is a holy place for the Indians, and of course the land agent doesn't care, and my hero doesn't know this, and so what he ends up doing is sort of holding the land in trust, puts it in his name so nobody can mess with it, but he holds it in trust because that's another one of the uh, native things I uphold to is that you do not own any land. No one owns land. You do not own land. You are the custodian of it. So that's one of my beliefs. Also, it's why I try to take care of the planet. I try to keep my blueprint as low as I possibly can. I try. Trust me. I I use every sheet of piece of paper. I use every rag. I mean, it's just really bad. So what ends up happening, how the book, then they have their regular trials and tribulations and this kind of thing. They have their danger, they have their not danger, they have all this stuff that goes on. And what ends up happening is he gets a summons, the hero gets a summons to go back to England. And on their way to England, uh, they go to New Orleans because New Orleans was a port, and New Orleans was the easiest way for them to get. Okay, what I figured, this to show you how you think when you're writing. I couldn't see them traveling overland to go to New York to leave for England because there would have been too many logistics difficulties in traveling with a white man, traveling with a black woman and a mixed kid and another black woman and a little. Yeah, it just logistically they had too many difficulties. So what I did was I had them float on a private barge down to New Orleans. And also I chose New Orleans at that time because there were a lot of mixed people there. There were a lot of you got your Creoles, you got your Cajuns, and then you had a lot of white men who would get these black mistresses who were raised from, you know, finished, they called it, from birth, educated, all that stuff, in order just to be the mistress of a rich white man. So when they get down to New Orleans, she for the first time has friends that they're a mixed couple too, and entertain, and she meets other people who are mixed couple too. So and she did kind of her own housework when they lived in Missouri. She was kind of homemaker, kind of that kind of thing. And then when she gets down to New Orleans, in order to have her quote unquote finished, um, the hero, um, doesn't let her do any work anymore. She has to learn how to handle a staff. She has to learn how to, give parties. She has to learn how to, do his. She has to be his private. She's basically his private secretary. She runs all his um, engagements, that kind of thing. She does that. She runs the household, so she learns how to do these things. But of course, she's been watching how to do these things. She know how to do these things, and she does those kind of things. And I keep looking over here because I'm getting old. I keep forgetting stuff. And what she and you really see her come alive. You really see her blossom. In terms of the person he's going to take to England is basically his the reason they had this time, and they end up. And well, the hard thing about writing this in this era is the action has to go slow because in the time, but be exciting at the same time. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean. All right, today, okay, this very minute, I could close this laptop and be anywhere on this planet in 48 hours. Anywhere. Uh, Antarctica, the North Pole, the Congo, anywhere on this planet. In about 48 hours, I could be there. It took I could email to my son and he'd get it in an instant. Back then a letter took months, a month to get somewhere, and stuff like that. And travel was very, very slow. I left the period um, intentionally um, vague. I didn't want to pinpoint an exact date because number one, I didn't want to get into a lot of I didn't want to research too heavy. And so I kind of left it kind of ambiguous what the actual time is. Early 1800s, so there were no trains. They were stagecoaches, and um, so the important thing a lot of times is you had to keep the action going, but you had to understand that people moved very, very slowly. So they were actually in New Orleans for months, waiting for their ride to go to England, waiting for his family's ships to come and pick them up from New Orleans. So um, also her lover that she had in Georgia on the plantation comes to New Orleans, and that was also a very tricky um, circumstance because I couldn't just have him pop there. So as you read, you'll notice that Jesus, I shouldn't even tell you guys that. Oh gosh, just wanna anyway, well, I told you now. Um it's why New Orleans is mentioned throughout the book. So it's a coincidence you can believe. So you have to give your readers are smart. Your readers are smart. Um you have to uh lead them up to things. Don't tell them everything, because they want to think on their own and, make their own deductions about things, but you don't have any wild coincidences and stuff like that. So by mentioning New Orleans, because that's actually where he went on his honeymoon, you know. So, and, I let it out that, her former mistress, my heroine's former mistress has relatives there, and I kind of lead it up to it. So they happen to be in New Orleans at the same time, and it makes sense. Romance readers are very savvy and very sophisticated, and I'll tell you, you make a mistake, they got you. I read Romantic Times, they got you. And I mean, I've sat there and gone, no, they wouldn't have done that then. That's not right. No, that isn't right. So she ends up seeing him again. The other day, I was actually on my way to the VA, and I was thinking something I left out. So I might have to go back and plug something in. Um, and so basically, that's where the book ends at a beginning. I'm torn between, I know what's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen when you guys see this video. After the book is published and everything, you will see these shoulder pads make my shoulders look out. See, these are really my shoulders, guys. I'm not this wide across, but I like big shoulder pads. Um, there's a part two about when they get to England and Spooky Old Castle, and that's another one of the what do you call them, formulas. I got a feeling they're going to make me write that before I write the World War II section. And I'm kind of thinking what I'm going to do is probably have to write them at the same time. Like I was teasing about Mozart writing the Magic Flute and the Requiem. I think I'm going to have to write um, the part two and the World War II era book at the same time. I got a feeling if I ever want it out there, because I know what's going to happen. And I'm not trying to make a series out of the book. I'm not trying to make a whole series. Like I said, like I explained before, it's a trilogy. The story of three women. One is the 1800s. One is during World War II kind of era, and one is now, but not exactly, not 2014. I think it's something around, I think I have it about the 80s or the 90s, because it's stuff that needs to happen that they can't have the technology that's available today at certain things. It has to go on. Anyway, um, it's 1849:50. I better go. I don't want it to be over. So I think that might be it for today. I don't think I'm gonna do another one unless I play them back and one of them looks funky. So I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.